The Philippines, a nation of over 110 million people, is no stranger to political drama. As elections draw near, the country's political landscape is once again shaped by strong loyalty of the Filipinos to those in position.
Kung naay mangharang sa inyo, po sila. Kanang ana ang kaisog ba, although figure of speech na or magambugero, but he means business nga. Kung naay mo harang po sila, pasabot, hibaw ka sa imong objective. So yun ko nga, this is the leader that we need.
From the Marcoses to the Dutertes, political supporters have shown a long-standing support amid serious controversies and cases of human rights abuses yet to be answered.
Because in doing so, in framing it as an encounter, it shows that they were on the similar fighting or like they were in the battlefield, but that didn't happen. What happened was a massacre.
Let us delve deeper into the roots of this loyalty, exploring the views of those who support a politician's leadership, an expert studying the Philippine political climate, a family member suffering from extrajudicial killings, and of someone who outlived the country's dark past during martial law.
Hundreds of politicians, students, journalists, writers, priests and nuns were arrested. More than 30,000 for in a period of 2 years. There are also cases of extrajudicial killings, assassinations, harassment of people.
How do the horrors of dictatorial rule and state-sponsored violence continue to cast shadows over the nation's politics? What explains the persistent devotion to leaders who have been associated with these deeply wounding events?
I think for decades already, what many scholars have seen as the fundamental factor in fueling not only election campaigns but political power in general is economic power. So I think it is important to note in the Philippines, if you don't have the financial resources, it's nearly impossible for you to first initiate a campaign and then win in the elections. Sa case of Philippines, the problem, I think, is not in ayuda itself, but in maintaining structures of injustice that, on the one hand, push the poor to maintain their economic status as poor, and on the other hand, because of this, perpetuate the system of ayuda as if the ayuda system is really the solution to the problem, So may di makita na ang supposedly ang ayuda palliative rigid ba, meaning para raw ta sa hinanali, di siya ingon mo ang long term nga solution, yun hinanali raw ta siya, pero nitabo karon imo siyang gihimo siya nga maoy mo na hinuoy tubag sa unsay kalisod. So sa kabahin, ang ayuda system ihang gi-reinforce kana gitawag natong patronage politics, Di ay ang kinaiya sa politika gipakusgan niya ang katong patron client system ay saka na sistema nga usa magsalig lang sa usa. Personally, wala pa ko kakita og ingani ka polarize ang Pilipinas, Sukad-sukad, especially after the arrest of Duterte. Grabe gid ang polarization. And to the point na dili na willing mo engage or mo cut on ang labi ng isa ka hobby sa pagdawat kung unsa man ang mga facts or truths behind. So, I think tungod mahimo ng challenging pud sa upcoming elections, midterm elections, which I believe would be crucial for the 2028 presidential elections.
Despite the International Criminal Court's ongoing probe against former President Rodrigo Duterte for crimes against humanity, his supporters remain firm. This has led to the country being divided, with movements erupting both in support of and against the ICC arrest, showcasing the continued loyalty of Duterte's base long after his presidency.
What are the main reasons you support Duterte, sir?
I think the very reason that I support Duterte is his display of leadership and the things that he exhibited as a president of the Philippines in the last in 6 years of his presidency. I have not seen any progress, any display of leadership, any tangible and intangible impact on the Filipino country as a whole that makes Filipinos proud. When Duterte stepped down as a president, he became silent and tried to be a private citizen. But in 2022, very early 2022, 2023, there was a movement of to gather signatures from the people in a guise of anything else, but it was for a constitutional change. Dito nilihok si Digong. Dito na mugna ang hakbang ng maisog. Actually, I just joined hakbang ng maisog last year, October. Most of the things I heard about Duterte is he's arrogant. And he has a death squad. That's all. Pero on the other side, nindot ang Davao safe. That's what I heard. Bawal ang public places nga smoking. Maura to ako, I decided to quit my job and become a consultant. So, ang pinakakita nako katong nakita nako siya diri sa Cebu, February 25, 2023. Then I started meeting people and then I joined the meetings. And I felt fulfilled. Bahala go'y kwarta, bahala gago, bahala gasto. When there are meetings about Duterte nga mga movement, I always join.
When you are arresting a criminal, you are not supposed to request him to surrender.
Ang dapat himon sa ICC, kung tarong sila, iuli nila si Duterte. Because walay judgment ang courts dito sa Pilipinas nga sadaan si Duterte or valid ang warrant. Kay kung i-allow na nimo, which already happened, kung ma-arresto nimo si Duterte without reason or without valid warrant of arrest, without going to courts, it means anybody can be arrested.
Ang hustisya, naantay namin hanggang ngayon. 8 taon na po ako lumalaban.
Behind the conflicting voices are cries of pain, as families of extrajudicial killing victims still seek for justice.
I am a family of one of the prominent youth activists and volunteers in the Philippines. So his name is Chad Buok, and for the past years since he's graduated in University of the Philippines, Diliman, he's always had set his perspective on serving the people, especially in the indigenous people or in the Lumad communities. And in those years, there has been many red tagging, there's been many death threats happening to him until it came to a point that he was illegally arrested along with other Lumad teachers and even the datus or the Lumad leaders. But when he attempted to rebuild the same school that he was serving in Nubataan, that was the time when we finally saw the threats became a real thing, because he and 4 other volunteers One of them was a fellow volunteer teacher, the other community health worker, while the others were their drivers. So, dubbed as the New Bataan Five, were unjustly massacred. That is the greatest and the most painful thing that us, the family, saw firsthand, no? Because those stories did not just happen to others, it happened to us also. So my family and I coped in different ways. While my mother was mainly into religious coping, my sisters tended to their own families, and my other brother into fear. I personally became more closer to the movement because I saw my brother in the friends and allies I made in the movement, and in that way I became more and more active in the organization, which I was part of even before my brother's death. And in doing so, I realized that there is a larger fight out there, that the fight did not end just because my brother's life did. At first, it was really relieving to finally achieve that small justice. It was the first step to achieving the justice we've clamored for the past 3 years on a personal level, and for the past how many years on a national level, because we realized that, for one thing, the accountability we've always asked for is finally beginning to be processed. On the other hand, we also became more agitated and more aroused to actually demand more, because simply arresting the former president was not the main solution. It was only the beginning. Of course, it's painful still, even if it's been 3 years since his death. But the thing that motivates me to continue, that strengthens me to continue, is seeing younger people step up. Like, year by year, I see the continuously expanding movement that even though there are some who eventually leave, more people join the cause, and that really motivates me because it only proves that my brother's death was not in vain. At the end of the day, it's not just the EGK victims who are deserving of justice. It's all of us, because accountability is a matter of providing the people what they need and what they deserve. And all of us deserve good governance. All of us deserve genuine democracy. And until the people sitting in the government and until the system continues to deprive us of our rights and liberty, we will never get that accountability. And that is why we must collectively struggle to get this from them. And in doing so, we can ensure that accountability will no longer be just a platform, it will no longer be just a promise, but a reality that we can live through.
I have proclaimed martial law in accordance with the powers vested in the President.
Breaking free from these present shackles of our democracy, we ought to fix the damage from before, to mend what has then failed us, or else we are doomed to repeat the same mistakes.
So actually the plan was to abolish all political parties because almost all politicians were corrupt. So we will remove them, all of them. So that was in September 21, 1972. Dictator Marcos signed the Proclamation 1081 declaring martial law, but it was not implemented on September 21. It was implemented on September 22, where leading politicians were arrested. Hundreds of politicians, students, journalists, writers, priests and nuns were arrested. More than 30,000 for in a period of 2 years. There are also cases of extrajudicial killings, assassinations, harassment of people. Hilom yun na itong panahon na. Di ka kasuwat, bisan ang among mga letters, isensor, na may padalites pamilya. Ablihan na nila, basahon. And we were not allowed to use freedom. Warning ha, Sa inyong letters, the word freedom should not be found there or should not be used.
Why is that the
Because that was part of the suppression. Oh. We were asked to write about how beautiful martial law is. Oh, so I told them, okay, release us, and we will write about the beauty of martial law. Oh, release us. So, release. In fighting against the dictatorship, we have to fight and fight. But I did not join the armed movement like the New People's Army. But I supported the New People's Army. In the cases I handled, 70% of our clients were members of the New People's Army. Oh. But I did not join them. I just sympathized because, you know, at that time, with martial law years, there was no other way to oust Marcos except sa amo pa, armadong pakigbisog, armadong pakikipaka, armed struggle. That was the best answer. But then, I have to choose lawyering, defending victims of human rights. When Marcos was ousted, not through armed force, but through people power. It was not actually bloodless. There were several persons killed, but the ouster was achieved not through armed revolution, but through people power revolution.
Decades after Ferdinand Marcos Sr.'s martial law rule, that period remains a defining moment in Philippine history. Yet today, the Marcos family continues to hold significant political power, reflecting a shift in how that history is remembered. In the same way, the extrajudicial killings linked to former President Rodrigo Duterte's war on drugs, now under investigation by the International Criminal Court, have not weakened his support base. Despite the serious controversy surrounding the Marcos and Duterte families, their influence remains strong, shaping a political landscape where controversial legacies and public loyalty continues to exist side by side. What does this say about the history that the nation remembers or chooses to forget?
Nahimong dakong significant nga factor ang strong personality sa pipila ka mga leader, diktador, aron kuhaon ang suporta, no, sa katawhan. Pero maskin pa man sa pagkuha ni sa suporta ni, wala gyud matubag kung unsa gyud ang panginahanglanon, no, sa katawhan. Kanang gitawag nga blind fanaticism. Again, I think nakaugat pod sa kung giunsa sa mga kanang politiko gi-manipulate ang discontent sa katawhan, ang ilahang mga disgusto giunsa ni gi-maximize sa mga politiko aron gamiton nila ug mo'y himong tungtungan sa ilahang plataporma, no?
Na ang mga tao giuhaw og tinuod nga fair nga information or fair nga view. That is why kini mga vloggers daghay ni sikat, daghay na gi-idolize or gi-follow gyud sa mga Pilipino because they no longer believe most of the mainstream media.
Kung boto na naon, Marcos and Duterte are just two sides of the same coin. Gani pareha sila kung siputanan sa human rights violations, pareha pud sila nga naay mga records sa human rights violations. So while sikat ang duha, no, ang kasikat nila nangugat paghihapon sa level of disinformation, no, sa katawhan diin kana lisod sila, wala pa ta nakatikang sa usa ka personality based politics ug sa pikas bahin mas na-reinforce ning personality-based politics sa kaning social media nato karon. Kaya I think dakong impact ni ana pud ang atong system of education, no? Ug ang institutions wherein we remember, we commemorate the atrocities of the martial law period. Kung sa context na siya sa disinformation, of course, no? Matod pa sa mga scholars, di man bag-o ang kanang fake news, in the past na naman na. Pero mas ning grabe siya, ni-intensify siya, ni-heighten siya sa pagkakaroon tungod pud sa sa social media. I think ang usa ka dakong problema dinhi sa Pilipinas kay ang walay pag-regulate sa social media usage, I mean the big tech, no, dili pa kayo ko concerned sa pag-regulate yun sa mga users, ordinary people, even vloggers, no, although to a certain extent dapat na ethics pud nga mag-guide nila in the same way nga mainstream media na po ethics nga mag-guide nila.
The social media is just the means or vehicle to see documents, to see videos, to see real events nga na-capture either video, document, or testimonies. Mao na gibasihan ako as a vlogger, mao na akong basihan. Therefore, if you say something, if you put document on social media, and I tried to look at it and validate it through my common sense and analysis, then I will say, okay, this document looks true. This video looks true.
Especially sa mga batanon, pilian yun ninyo ang kaning mga tao na mulaban yun sa demokrasya, patigbabaw sa tinuod, o pilian yun, no? Pinasubay sa inyong konsensya, ayaw pagpadala sa kwarta. So, mga batanon, participate, no? Vote for anybody whom you believe is pro-democratic, honest, no, and good leaders para mo survive ang atong democracy.
Ako alang gyud nga ganahan ipaabot kay ang dugang kadasig sa pagpadayon nga hinaot dili ta kanunayong mahuyang o gani mas mangusog pa kita nga maningil kung unsa ang sakto hangtod nga dili lang kita makadawat og hustisya kundi tinuoray na gyud nga pagtukod og estado og usa ka katilingban nga atua og dili sa pipila lang.
Sa atong pag maabot nga pinili ay hinaot atong pilion ang sakto o makatarunganon nga mga programa o plataporma ug dili lang kita mupili subay sa kung kinsa may popular o sikat. Atong hinumduman kining ato ang mga boto dili ra ni para nato kundi para pod sa atong mga anak, mga apo, mga henerasyon nga maabot.
The cycle of personality and patronage politics has gripped our nation, shaping leaders, shaping lives, and shaping the very future of democracy. But how much longer will we let this cycle chain us to the mistakes of the past? With the upcoming elections, it's time to envision a democracy committed to the next generation, one that values principles over personalities and progress over patronage. Mga kauban, choose wisely because the future is in your hands.